Coming up on AI in the classroom, we are debugging codes in Claude.
Hi, my name is Guy Training, a professor here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And my name is Boache Williams, a grad student at UNL.
And today, Williams is actually going to teach me how to debug code in Claude, which is one of our favorite AI. So let's go.
Yes,
Show me what you've got.
So Claude is one of the favorite programming, or one of the AI that is best in debugging or creating codes. And so as teachers, we will be, sometimes we will try to help our students with some codes. If we want them to know what to do with a certain code or what to do, we can give them a list of code that is having errors, and I'll ask them to debug them to find those errors that are in the code. And so here I give Claude the first prompt that I'm going to provide it with some codes that I would need it to debug it for me. And I say, okay, sure. First, I need to specify the programming language, what the code is supposed to do, any error messages that I've been seeing. But I didn't do any of that, but I just provided it with the list of the codes. And here you can see the first code. You can copy the code from the programming language that you are working on, whether in C++ or even if it's an HTML document or any programming language. You can just copy the code and provide it with Claude to find the errors for you. So here I have the first code, age_1 equals 23. And the second code is 2 surname equals Boache, and the last code is first name Williams. So it assessed the code and found nothing wrong with the first code, which is age is equal to 23, and that is a correct code. But with the surname, it actually added a quotation marks around the name, and seeing that the name is a string, and strings should come with quotation marks. And the last one, first name. So here we can just see what Claude said. If you want to use number in variable names, you can put it at the end of the line instead of at the beginning. For example, surname 2, rather than just saying 2 surname. So that was the error that was found in the code.
So before we jump to the next thing, because so you gave it code, it asked what language, but actually it was able to detect the language on its own. Now, you don't want to trust it because we do have computer languages that are somewhat similar, and you want to make sure that it's reading the right one. You want to make sure that it knows this is Python, this is Java, this is HTML, whatever we're using, just to make sure that it's not steering you in the wrong direction. What I love, though, that you showed me that I didn't know it did, is it actually explains. It doesn't just fix it. It actually explains what you need to do. And as a result, it becomes a great learning device. Yeah. Because now it's not just saying, here's the right code, but actually it walks you through the thinking. It's like, okay, if you want integer, it needs to be this way. If you want it to be a string, you need to do that. If you want a number as part of the variable name, it's got to show up after, not before. So it really is, you can see how after you interact a few times, you take those pointers and you can start implementing it in your code. So it really does scaffold a little bit of the learning. So what's the next thing?
These are the few codes that I provided, but actually you can add a long string of code for it to debug it and find the errors for you. And you can do this as an assessment for your students in the classroom. You give them a list of codes, let's say 1 to 10 with errors, and then they will debug it and find the errors themselves, and they will also learn something from what Claude will provide them with the result and the explanations in the solution in the code.
And I love what you're talking about here, because one of the things that we struggled with the most with AI is if it just gives me an answer, then I'm not learning. One of the things we can do as teachers is we can give that text, allow students to debug individually and then with Claude, but then we have to insist on them actually explaining it. So it's not enough that you got it right. Tell me what you learned from it, or tell me what the mistake was and how you would avoid it in the future. So that creating that discussion, that instructional conversation is really where understanding happens.
Yeah.
Because when you have to explain it to somebody else, you have to actually fully process the information. Whereas here, sometimes you can just, yes, there's an explanation, but I'm just going to grab the answer and put it in. So it's through that instructional conversation that the magic of learning, deep learning, actually happens. So this is with short snippets of code. Can you do it? You started saying about longer snippets of code.
Yeah.
What happens with longer snippets of code?
Yes. So actually, you can even ask Claude to give you some codes yourself. You just give me a list of some error codes in Python using variables, or when teaching variables, and it can give you that, and you can use it to assess your students. So it can give you a long list of a long snippet of code, and then you can provide it or give it to your students to debug it for you.
All right.
Yeah.
So today on AI in the Classroom, we did a little bit of debugging your code with Claude. And what is really, really fascinating is thinking about it as a support for teaching computer science, not just as a way to fix your own code, which is important, but as a way, what do you do with it as a teacher who teaches computer science, who teaches coding, and wants students to start using the debugging features without losing the ability to do the work themselves. And we'll see you next time.